And it's a real problem to solve, like we said at the beginning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the sum total of any company is the problems they solve, essentially. Matthew Urquhart, how are you, my brother?
Very well, mate. Very well.
My literal brother, that is.
That's it, mate. Literal little
For
brother.
those who don't know. But mate, we're not catching up. This is not a podcast just because we can.
Mm-hmm.
You've actually got a really, really good idea to solve a massive problem, housing shortage problem.
Yep.
And we're going to dig into that today. We're going to talk about Thryv Property Co. and how that works, why you started it, how it's going to solve this massive, massive tension of housing shortages.
Yep.
So tell us, mate, what is Thryv Property Co?
Mate, so it started a long time ago when I got into developments.
Yeah.
I started doing property stuff probably 15 years ago. And then over the years, I did some renovations and I did townhouse development and things like that. And what happened was over the last few years, I've just realised that in the current market, it doesn't stack up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stack up financially. And the main problem that we've got is obviously construction costs and all that type of stuff. But it also only slightly addresses the issue with vacancy rates and the massive issue we've got with lack of accommodation and lack of housing in Australia, or New South Wales in particular. So that's why I created it, mate, to be honest, is trying to get an investment that works in the market and solves a problem at the same time was the plan.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, good. So it's a co-living project?
Yes, mate, that's what we do, yep.
Talk to us about it. How does it do that? How does it stack up but also solve the housing shortage problem?
Yeah, so the main thing it's obviously multiple tenancies.
Yep.
So most of our ones have like 12 rooms, so there's 12 self-contained apartments. We've got designs with 11, 12 and up to 20.
Yeah.
So they're all individual rentals. So there's one dwelling or two dwellings in the case of the 20-roomer, but each room can be rented out individually. So you've got the ability to have affordable rents, like lower rents. They're all inclusive rents. It's mainly targeted towards professionals and singles because they're single rooms. So the beauty of it is, potentially, with a 12-roomer, you've got 12 separate rentals. If you've got people renting a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment for one person, that can free up stock for families and allow families to move into those 2 and 3 bedders and allow singles to move into these single occupancies.
Yeah.
Just makes it, it's good for transient workers as well, the people that are coming into town for 3, 6, 12-month contracts, like doctors and nurses. And they snap these up because, it's the difference between staying in an Airbnb, for instance. You might stay in an Airbnb for $200 a night or whatever it is, or you've got to rent a house. So if you've got a 3 or 6 months contract, nobody's going to rent you a house for 3 or 6 months.
That's right.
So it sort of fills that void in between.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a relatively new product, isn't it? Because, it seems like, there are some states doing it, but it hasn't really rolled out here. Is that about right?
Yeah, sort of. So there's a lot of limitations in New South Wales compared to others. Like you've got to go through council and get full DA and stuff like that rather than just doing compliant development in other states. But the biggest thing with New South Wales is just it changes all the time. It was before it was the New Age boarding scheme, and then it got changed to the co-living SEP, and it's just modified. So in one form or another, it's been a part of New South Wales for years.
Yeah.
It just keeps modifying. So I believe the co-living change was done about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But it hasn't sort of taken off like it has in other cities for that reason of the compliant development versus going to full council.
Yeah, because when you started first digging into this, there's not many people that knew much about it, was there?
Nah, that's been the biggest problem. So it was, I think I went through probably 7 or 8 town planners and 5 or 6 architects and so on before I got the team that I've got now.
Yeah.
Which is a great team now. So yeah, we sort of took a bit of trial and error, mate. A lot of the times I came into it knowing more than what the town planners did, and they were asking me questions, which is never good when you're relying on a consultant to sort of pick you apart and make sure you're doing the right thing rather than the other way around. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a real problem.
It is.
Isn't it? We'll talk about the stats soon, but how's this? It's a quote from Daniel Ek from Spotify. And he said, the value of a company is the sum total of the problems that it solves. How cool is that?
Yeah, it's great.
So what does that mean to you, bro? Because, I mean, life's not going to roll out the red carpet. We say that a fair bit here for this project. You're solving a problem. There's the need based on the stats that you'll tell us about. But what are some of the headwinds that you'll face here? Like what are the problems you're trying to solve and why?
So the main headwinds you solve is just the differences between how councils interpret the rules.
Yeah, right.
So you go to one, like at the moment I've got 4 on the go in 4 separate councils.
Yeah.
Compliance in one council, what they want is not the same as another.
Yeah.
So you've got to sort of roll with the punches in that side of it. That's from a planning point of view. Design wise, it's usually just tweaks. You just sort of find out. We try to do a pre-DA before everyone to see gauge where the council's at with it, whether they like the project or they don't like it, what they would like. That's the main headwind, mate, to be honest. And you got a lot of push. You can get a lot of pushback from locals. Reason being, in the past, boarding houses and that type of thing, especially the group homes, they've got a bad name. Everyone thinks they're for like a halfway house. They're a drug den. They're going to be for affordable housing and stuff like that. And not as if there's anything wrong with that, but a lot of the time people don't want it in their backyard. Yeah. Which is a problem we're having with one of ours at the moment, which we've addressed those issues. But that's probably the biggest thing is just getting that stigma changed, that thought around it.
Because it's not that at all, mate.
It's not at all.
It's professional services.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. It's professional services. As I said, young singles that are trying to, save to buy a house. They can that type of thing. Also, one of the largest growing demographics are actually women 50 and older.
Yeah. Talk to us about the stats, mate. Because that's, believe it or not, I think you've told me before, that's the fastest growing homeless statistic is ladies over 50.
Correct, yeah. Wow. So they estimate that, I can't remember the exact year, but by 2030 or whatever it's going to be, that 66% of people in retirement will be living below the poverty line.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And that's not saying they're all going to be on the street homeless, but that's saying they can't afford to pay their bills. You can't afford to feed yourself. You can't afford that. And I mean, 66% of retirees in that position. And a lot of it seems to be single males and females. So on the female side, you'll often have, retired mothers that have, been a mother their whole life. They haven't really worked much. If they have, they've worked part-time. They either are widowed or divorced. When it comes to retirement age, they don't have a home. They're renting. And, if you try to, I don't know the exact figures on how much you get for a pension these days, but I believe it's around about, I think it might be $800 a fortnight or something like that, or I can't remember what it is. But if you're trying to rent a house, the average rental in our area is $650 a week. Yeah. If you're trying to come up with $650 a week, plus bills, plus insurance, plus everything on top of that, a lot of the time they just can't afford to do it.
Food, electricity.
Ongoing everything. So, gas or whatever it might be, run your car. So that's one of the growing epidemics that we've got at the moment is that age group, and especially the women demographic that are having a lot of trouble. And that's something that we, in the future, like at the moment, ours are set up for anyone can lease them, don't get me wrong, but we're more going towards the professionals side of things because we're in hubs and near hospitals and so on. But moving forward, that would be an area we want to try to target as well, if we can do these and have them, potentially purposely built for that demographic and make them a community. So, you have women over a certain age living together and helping each other out, which would be amazing if we could do it.
Oh, mate, it's absolutely essential, and it's a real problem to solve, like we said at the beginning, isn't it? The sum total of any company is the problems they solve, essentially. This is what Daniel Ek says. That's a good problem to solve. And we sort of started with this thought, but we can complain about the government all we want, but the most amazing things that have ever happened in the Western world especially have been done off the back of private enterprise. People are willing to have a crack and solve a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading a book just recently, and it was William Wilberforce. Now, William Wilberforce, he came from a rich family, so his family was quite well off. And then, so he inherited a fair bit of money, and he got straight into politics in his early 20s. And he could have just lived a cream life. Like he had no need to get involved in the affairs of the day. Mm-hmm. The problem of the day was the slavery trade from Africa into all the countries, into all these Western countries. Yep. And so he got right in the middle of that problem, and he, as a politician, started to rail against the industry, because that's what it was, of slavery. And, he fought that for 20, 30, nearly 40 years at varying levels. I think it took him 20 years to really break the back of it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't comfortable, and it was horrible, and he did a lot of other really good things. But here's the thing, is that those horrible things don't get overcome just by sitting back hoping that it'll get done or waiting for the government to fix it.
No, exactly.
The best things that have ever happened in life are generally private enterprise.
Yep.
Doing their bit. I mean, there's this growing thought that, like the business owners, that landlords are the problem. But
evil.
Actually,
yeah.
It's just most of the time it's just people having a crack.
Exactly, yeah, that's it. It's more of the solution when it comes down to it, because, as you said, a lot of the time the landlords get a bad rap. They think everybody thinks they're a millionaire, including the government. They want to tax them as hard as they possibly can. They want to make sure they don't make a profit. But when it comes down to it, just use an example at the moment for the Australian government had a target of $1.2 million new houses to be built by 2029. They are currently forecast to be 27% below that. So they're going to miss the target by 220,000 homes.
Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to target. And I mean, the problem with that is they need landlords, they need developers, they need people investing private enterprise, private money into this type of thing. A lot of their new policies, I won't get too much detail on that, but it's actually hamstringing that. It's making it harder for people. It's only I think it's 1% of Australians own more than 2 properties. Yeah. So it goes, one property's owned by X amount of percent, and then by the time you get to 2 or more, it's 1% of people own more than 2 properties. So one in their property plus an investment.
Yep.
And then when you get to 3, it's like 0.06% own any more than 3.
Is that right?
So, it's not a greedy landlord. It's everybody's trying to. Somebody's got to do the development. Somebody's got to put their money on the line and put everything on the line to make these things happen. And if it's not for private enterprise and people willing to have a crack and put their hard-earned money into the investment, you just don't get the housing. It just doesn't happen. Yeah,
well, it's full on, and there's like we said right at the beginning, there's a real problem to solve here. What's the vacancy rate now?
So currently the vacancy rate in New South Wales is anywhere, the average is 1.4 to 1.6%.
So explain what a vacancy rate is.
So vacancy rate is the amount of homes that are available for rent in any one area. So you want it to be about 3%. So they call it a balanced vacancy rate. So if you're around that 3%, it means that there's not an oversupply. If you're anything above 3, like when you get 4 and 5, it's an oversupply of housing. So therefore, you've got vacant houses sitting there doing nothing. Anything under that, 2% is classed as low, and anything below that is like critically low.
Which is critically low in most states.
So if you've got X amount of houses in the area, that means that only 1% of those houses, or 1.5% of those houses, is available. So every person, so you end up having these issues where you'll have one rental come up and you'll have these lines around the street. You'll have people, especially in some cities, they've literally got lines around the street of 100 people going for one rental. And it just pushes up the market, obviously pushes the people in the lower end further and further out and further away from anywhere they can live, which makes it hard.
Well, that's the byproduct, isn't it? That's the byproduct of under supply of housing.
That's it. And one thing that we've, obviously we're trying to solve with this is having that medium affordable range in like regional cities. So all of our sites are pretty much within a major business hub. And the rents are way cheaper than anything else. They're only, as I said, they're a standalone room. But if you're single and you're looking for, all you really need is a good room with a kitchen, ensuite and all that type of stuff, you don't need a 3 or 4 bedroom house. And a lot of the development that we do in Australia is that, like, everybody wants to develop a 3 or 4 bedroom house, or it's a unit somewhere.
Yep.
So we're sort of trying to meet that middle part where it's more affordable and it's what they need. It's missing demographic.
Try to get it close, like you said, close to services and
Correct. Yeah.
potentially their place of work.
Yep.
Mate, I tell you what, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. I mean, with immigration, and again, that's why something needs to be done. Like with immigration levels, with the existing shortage, with the coming shortages of housing, with the, like you said, the growing increased levels of divorce. So all of a sudden you've got one home for a family that now needs 3 homes because the kids are leaving and then mum and dad separate.
Yep.
Does that play a little bit into why they predict that the greatest housing shortage is going to be for women over 50? What causes that? What drives that?
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the big pushes for it, for sure. Because you've got, it's women and men. Like a lot of people who go through divorce, the divorce rates are going through the roof, and you get to a point where, the male has to leave the house, as you said, and has to find a place to stay. They're still more than likely, if they were the breadwinner and the wife either didn't work or worked part-time, they're still paying the mortgage off of the house, but then they've got to find somewhere else to rent. So if you're either renting one property for the family or own a property for the family, and then you've got to move into a property, you potentially could be coming up with 2 rents. And if you're trying to come up with, let's say the average is $650 to $700, if you're coming up with $1,400 a week just to cover 2 properties, it's a lot of money, and that's not including bills, maintenance, food, getting to work, all that type of stuff as well. So I think that is a big driver with that type of thing. It's just, it's a real worry for me, to be honest with you. I didn't realise until I got into it, until I started looking at this type of system and this type of development, where I went, that was one of the ones that sort of come from the side of me. I didn't really see it coming. It was way worse than what I thought it was going to be, and it's projected just to get worse and worse and worse as time goes on.
Yeah, wow.
Especially with, obviously you've got the boomers now that are sort of all coming into retirement. Yeah. So you've got that factor, and we don't have enough people coming through taking over the younger people. Obviously everyone's having less kids. So yeah, mate, it's a real worry. Yeah. It's a real worry. We won't really know. It's one of those ones that's gradual too. So every year it'll just get worse. Yeah. And then it'll get to a point where they'll be like, we should have done something about this 20 years ago. Yeah. Which doesn't seem like anybody is, but hopefully, this system and our process will make that happen. Yeah. At least help anyway.
It'll help. It's everybody doing their bit, isn't it? Yeah. And again, we're not just waiting on complaining and waiting on the government to step up.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the biggest thing, I reckon, that, like we think about, maybe the mindset that we have in the Western world is that potentially the government owes us something, and of course they have their role in society, but like, mate, in business, I want to talk to you about, your background as what you've done prior to this, but, life doesn't roll out the red carpet for anyone, does it? And the government certainly doesn't. I mean, their job is to do what they do, but it's, I love the fact that we can influence outcomes, that we can see a problem and step in and solve it, that we live in a free country, where we have the freedom to be able to, solve problems, to be able to influence outcomes, not to be a victim of circumstance. Of course, things aren't where we want them to be, but we don't have to just sit there waiting for somebody else to step in.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, but it takes a special kind of mindset, Matty, doesn't it? To think, I can fix this. Yeah. I can make a difference here and have a crack. Because you've had a crack, bro. You had a full-time job and you've thrown it in to do what you're doing now. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I was a refrigeration mechanic for 26 years.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I started off, obviously, did my trade when I was younger and pushed through and just ran jobs. Like, I pretty much ran jobs from probably third year onwards, just as like site form and all that type of stuff. And then later in my career, I got into running doing the project management side.
Yeah.
So I was running quite massive jobs. I used to work for Coles Refrigeration, and spent a lot of 14 years with them. Most of the last tail end of probably the last 8 years with them was that project management role.
Yeah.
And we used to run massive jobs. Like, any one time I'd have sort of $10 to $13 million worth of jobs on the go across 5 or 10 different sites, sort of thing, depending on the time. So that sort of gave me the ability to do this type of thing. Like, to be honest with you, this is probably easier than what I was doing before. It's
your day would have been problem solving, wouldn't it?
All day, every day. Yeah, it was just on the phone, chasing emails, going to site, just trying to solve problems.
Yeah,
which I like. I like that type of thing, and this one lends itself to that as well. You're always on the move, and you're always on the go, trying to solve problems on the fly, which I like doing. It was actually a good training for me. I don't have any, technical proper certificate in in project management or anything like that. But I've got a hands-on.
You got the boots on the ground.
Yeah, a lot of years from a trade background. So, which is really good for me doing this type of thing, because I know how to structure it. Most of it's in my head, which you guys are helping me get it out of my head and into a system. But that's really good. So I can run projects in my head with a notebook, writing notes down and stuff like that, which I've been doing for years. So, you guys with the help of Natty and Ben, they've been really helping me get the structure down and actually do it so that I can have a company run without me just running it through my head, because it's a little bit hard, obviously, to run a company if it's going through you only, like me only, I should say.
It's a really good point. So let's talk about that a little bit, because it's one thing to have a crack.
Yeah,
it's one thing to have a good idea. It's another thing altogether to step out and actually execute, isn't it? Be able to have a plan, a business model, and to be able to execute your desires, because it can be a real flogging business, and there's no guarantee that just because you think you can solve a problem that you'll be able to. Talk to us about that a little bit. So you've got, Thryv Property Co. It's not just a good idea now. Like you've pushed all the chips in the middle of the table and you're going for it. What's been the hardest thing around the business structure as you try to solve this housing shortage problem?
For me, it is getting those systems and processes down.
Yeah.
Because as I said, like I've got a notepad that I carry around with me, and what I put in my head, and I know the process. I know what I'm meant to do. But the accounting side and the systems and process side is it's all jargon to me. Like I don't really know what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been trying to do with you guys, is obviously get that system in place where I get it out of my head and get it into a set system that anybody can come in and take over any part of any role.
So important, mate.
It is, mate. It is. It's so, and one of the good things that I have since working with you guys, as I've noticed, is doing the disc profiles and things like that.
Yeah.
You sort of, you can get in your head and think, I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
Like I'm an idiot or whatever, like, because I can't do accounting or I can't follow a system or create a system. It's not until you get into those disc profiles that you realise that I'm not meant to do that.
Yeah, that's right. It's not your strength.
My strength is running the job, solving the problems and doing things like that. Yeah. And then you employ people in the roles that are good at systems, good at processes, good at, the finer details. Whereas I'm more of a grand, big plan man. Yeah. I see the plan, I know how to get there, and I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But just those systems and processes, mate, that's a huge part.
Yeah, well, mate, this podcast speaks to business owners, leaders, and it's the recipe for success, isn't it? Leadership, team, and culture. And part of culture is not smiling faces and, everyone getting on, because that can shift and change depending on who's working for you. That's a byproduct of a good culture. But what actually cements your business moving forward is your ability to be able to, capacity-driven leadership, to build a foundation in your business that can carry the way to success.
Yeah, that's it.
Because actually what we're trying to do, we're talking about housing today, and if you were to literally go and build a house, you would start with a foundation. And so the question you ask is, what am I building on? What's the ground like?
Yep.
What's the engineering required? And what am I building? How high am I going up? And so that's going to determine your depth of your foundation. And so sometimes we get into business because we celebrated the fact that people have a crack, but they get into it with the highest of hopes that everything's going to be all right, and then they realise that business is actually one of the toughest things you'll do. And often it's because they're building the business on their own skill set,
Definitely,
or their own hard work,
Yep.
and not on what you were saying, like the system and processes that carry the weight, the roles and responsibility, the leadership that helps the team to develop so they can carry the weight with you.
Yeah, exactly right.
So many leaders, mate, and you might speak to this in your previous business, but so many leaders just take the hit-ups for their team, make the tackles for their team, and they think that's what good leadership is.
Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, because that's the mentality I come into it with, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So coming from a trade background especially,
Yeah.
it's like you just get it done. There's never enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
You just keep banging, just keep going until it's done. But I'm sort of now learning that that's not the way forward. Like, it's not the way it should be. You want to sort of pull back, spend some time on those structures and implementing the right people in the right places.
Wow, so good.
And then allowing yourself to then palm stuff off to them.
Yeah.
To have that. So it's been like a change for me, to be honest. It's been a change in the way I perceive things. So I was sort of of the mentality of just work harder, it'll be right.
Yeah.
But when you get to a business of any decent size, mine at the moment, it's manageable by me, obviously with just help from accounts team and so on. But you build any size, it's just going to crumble.
Yeah.
If you try to do it yourself, you just can't manage it. You can't hold it. You can't add hours to the day. You can't. You only get 24 hours, and you've got to get sleep in there somewhere. So it's sort of one of those things that you've got to make sure that you've got the team around you and the systems around you to make it flow properly.
Yeah, it's so true, mate. And it's funny, because I remember I went to America. It was at the 5-year mark. For anybody who listens to the podcast a fair bit, it was at the 5-year mark of us owning our building business, and I paid a lot of money for it. 5 years in, I would have given it away for free if somebody had asked me. And it was because I hadn't done what you're talking about, hadn't laid the foundation, hadn't developed the team, hadn't really locked away the system and process. But we ended up getting there in the end, through, just being deliberate around it. But we only had a little building business. At about that stage, though, I went overseas. I remember going to this conference, and there was a guy up there, and he'd worked for one of the biggest clothing retailers in America. Now, this guy who owned the retail business, he had the biggest yacht in New York Harbour, like this big ship thing. It was worth probably a couple $100 million. So the bloke was absolutely loaded. But what he had done is he'd built a business that was only momentarily stable, in a sense, that it was actually trend-setting in the way it did its business and outworked its business in retail. And I think he owned a couple of different retail brands. But his management team were always coming and going. And so he actually relied on really good people just being in his team. And he was a little bit disconnected from the day-to-day in his own business.
Yep.
So the guy who was telling the story at this conference was actually one of the guys that was one of the managers, one of the main managers. And when he left, and then a couple of other key people left, and nobody filled the void, this guy, if he didn't go bankrupt, he went very close. And the bloke was very, very successful. Because, again, you just can't escape this thought, whoever might be out there listening, around what it is to be in business. We need to ask the question, is that, are we structurally sound or only momentarily stable?
Yep.
Like you would never build a house and not lay the proper foundation, because you know that if you do, when the storm hits, this thing's, or when anything moves, this thing's gonna, it's gonna start to crack.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's what happens in businesses, mate. So I'm stoked to hear that you're obviously investing in your foundations to start with, because this is an amazing thing you're doing, and you're going to solve a massive problem, at least in our area and beyond.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully, that's what we're aiming for.
But to think that we can just because there's a problem, we can jump in and solve it just by having a crack, and not give any thought to the foundations of your business model.
Yep.
Mate, it's just a nightmare waiting to happen, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. And you can't white-knuckle yourself through it.
Nah.
You can't just grip on and just go, it'll be right, and ride it out, because, as you said, the storms will come,
Yeah.
Like they're going to come no matter what. You might be able to ride out the first one and just white knuckle it through it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, as the business gets bigger, the storms get bigger.
That's exactly right.
And you just can't do it. Eventually it'll crumble. And then a lot of the time business owners, you might lose it financially, you might not, but you might lose it mentally. You might just get to a point like you did after 5 years and just go, I am out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to borrow this anymore. It's not worth it. And when it gets to that stage, no matter how much money you got in the bank, if you've ruined your family and you've ruined your kids don't speak to you and all the rest of it because you're never home, you're always at work and things like that. That's been one of the driving forces for me, to be honest with you, mate, is spending more time with the kids. Yeah, so I had it pretty good with the old company. I used to be able to pick the kids up from school when I had them and things like that. But mate, this for me, and it was the deciding factor to do it. And I know, like, it's only early days and companies, you end up probably working more hours, but it allows me to work when I want. So what I do a lot of the time is, like this afternoon, I go pick up the kids, and then I drop them off every morning, pick them up every afternoon when I have them, and then, mate, if I'm under the pump, I just put them to bed and just start working. Like I sometimes might work till 11 or 12 at night. I don't do it all the time because I don't want to burn out, but I've got that flexibility where I can do that, and that was probably one of the driving forces for it, is obviously setting them up in their future as well, having the company and having, hopefully get financially set up. But just having that time, mate, like my girls are only 10 and 7, and it's an age I want to pause them.
Yeah,
like, stop.
Bro.
Just stop growing up. I'm done. I don't want you to grow up anymore. Yeah. But unfortunately you can't. So I'm just trying to spend as much time as I can for mate. That is the big driver for me, is spending time with them, quality time, and not having work in my head. I try to turn it off when I get home, when I have them. It overlaps sometimes, as in anything, you can't control your mind 100%, but I do try to disconnect from work, and then, at night time, if I have to do something, I've got a deadline I've got to hit, or I've got a schedule, I've got to, plans I've got to get completed or anything like that, I do it at night after they're in bed.
Yeah, it's just, mate, it's that work-life balance. It's, it's a bit of a myth, isn't it? It's one of those things that you want to, you've got to, essentially, I reckon, I don't know what you think about this, mate, but it's like, it's scheduling your priorities.
Yep.
And prioritising your schedule, So
that's it. You've
got to be able to go, okay, what's my major priority here? Like, our eldest boy just turned 30. Like, you don't get time back.
That's it, right?
You can get money back. That's mental, bro.
Mate, I still remember the day. Like it was yesterday that he was born. Honestly, mate. I remember you telling me that Natty was pregnant. Like, yeah. That's crazy.
Mate, that was over 30 years ago now. Yeah. And it went like that, and you get money back. I've burnt a couple of things. I've burnt plenty of money over the years doing what we do, because that's just life and business.
It is.
And I've probably wasted a lot of time, but I'll get money back. I won't get time back.
It's exactly it.
You got to be able to factor that into part of what success looks like, don't you?
Yeah, that's exactly it, mate. It's that no matter how much money you earn, no matter how much do, as you said, you can get more money, you can get everything, you can't get more time.
Yeah.
And especially with your kids. Yeah. Like if you miss that window, and that's been a big wake up call for me, is if you miss that window and you spend all your time, with your head in work or you do whatever, and you miss that age, especially now, mate, like that, they're in like just the best age. Yeah, it's just so amazing to see them grow up, and just how different they are, and how intelligent they are, and how their different personalities, and just everything about them. Like, I just absolutely love them. So the more time I can spend with them, the better. It's just it's worked out really well for that. Especially like we've moved into town here now. We rent an apartment just literally 5 minutes walk from the office. Yeah. So, mate, this summer, I can't wait for summer again. Last summer was amazing. Every afternoon, we would just, girls come home, drop their bags, put their swimmers on, towel over the shoulder, walk to the beach. It's so good, mate. We do that like every afternoon, and it's just, mate, it's such a good setup,
mate. Well, it just goes to show too. We're talking about leadership, talking about business. Why it's so important with our businesses, to make sure that we're setting it up so that we're not carrying all the weight ourselves. Because when we talk about success has weight, right? So we start a business, we've got a great idea. Generally, people who start businesses are good at what they do. That's why they start it, because, you know, they do it and they think, oh, we do this really well. We could make a bit of extra money, have a bit more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get into business.
Of course,
Except you realise that, wow, you know, I don't know that I'm making all that much more money and I've got no more freedom. And it's often because we're building the business on our own back and skill set, as opposed to what we've been talking about, which is laying a foundation that can actually carry the way to success.
Yep.
So, you know, like, speaking to business people out there, Matty, like, and leaders, high-level leaders like you were in the last business and beyond that, you know, we need to be able to develop teams that can help you carry as quickly and as soon as possible.
Yep, definitely.
Because otherwise, mate, we say it this way, that your success is in the hand of others.
Yep.
So essentially what we do, mate, when we get into business is we go, okay, here's my reputation, here's my cash flow, here's my profit, here's my time, here's my emotional energy, here's my investment. Here it is for you to manage now. And we do that for everybody that's in our team. Essentially, that's what we do without realising we're doing it, because they all play a part in our success. And then when you think more broader than that, you know, as builders, we're customers, trade, suppliers, we're again asking these people to be, you know, what somewhat responsible for all of those aspects of our business life and our personal life, because they're one and the same. If you're struggling at business,
it's a knock-on effect.
It's a knock-on effect.
Yeah.
And yet, here's a thought, bro. So we're saying to people, oh, you're responsible for my success. I'll see you later.
Mm. Yeah, that's right.
Rather than training and developing, you know.
Yep.
It's fascinating for me. I mean, this is why we got into what we do, because, you know, like, we did it so poorly to start with. Then we got it right at the end. And we see business owners, amazing business owners, who are just, when we think about success has weight, and if you don't have the foundation to carry the weight of success, the cracks will appear. Well, the cracks that appear are no time, no emotional energy, drained to the hilt, even though you're working till 10 at night. Your phone won't stop ringing. You're solving every problem. You're putting out every fire. You're carrying all the weight yourself. You look around for your team, and you've got a good team, but they can't carry to the degree you need them to carry. Then any type of success you get, because success generally equals more, just puts more pressure on your foundations.
Yep.
And if that's your back, that gets too much too quick, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
And then what happens is all your dreams, hopes and aspirations become a nightmare. Because you're thinking to yourself, all right, my target this year is to turn over $2 million.
Yeah.
Next year I want to turn over 4, and so on and so on. But as you hit these targets and you're going, yeah, kicking goals, look at me go, the money's going that way, or at least the income's going that way. Yeah. The lifestyle and the work life's going the opposite way. Yeah. And that's the problem. If you don't have those people in those key positions, it'll just always go the opposites. Yeah. Even if you might even be going down on both. Yeah. You're not earning any. Eventually it will. Eventually they'll both go off the cliff. Yeah. You might make money in the short term, and then you'll turn around. And like, coming from a trade background, same as you, like, we take pride as a tradie. I always try to take pride in what I did in the finished job. I didn't like the mentality of, you won't see it from my house. You know, it's who cares? You know, it'll be right. She'll be right, mate. I never liked that with my own work. Yep. And if you're doing something like this, as you as a builder and me as like a developer, you obviously want to be look back and be happy with your finished product. Yes. And it's 100% in other people's hands.
Yeah, it is, bro.
Like, my part of this, like, although, you know, Thryv Property Co is on the, on it, and then Thryv Living, which is our branding, ownership sort of brand over it when it's completed. Although that's a company that I'm involved in and own, it's my name on that, but I have that much impact of it.
That's right.
Of the final product. You know, I've got to trust the builders, I've got to trust internal teams, I've got to trust all that type of stuff to be compliant and be the way it's meant to be. And then you got to trust managing agents afterwards and all that stuff. And it all comes back to me, you know, to the brand itself. Yeah. You know, if one goes off the cliff, and it's a terrible site and so on, then that brand gets a bad reputation.
And that's what happens to our business.
Which is the heart and soul I've put into creating all this.
Yeah. And that's what happens to business owners, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And mate, it's heartbreaking, because we're getting back to this culture thought. Your culture is how you do what you do. You know, we can say that it's, like I said, smiling faces and beers at a pub on Friday, but that's a byproduct. What it actually is how you do what you do. And I use this example all the time, but if you go to a cafe and you get the most amazing coffee that you've ever had 1 time out of 5, is that a good culture?
Nah, you're not going back.
And what about if you get the best coffee 5 times out of 5 and they're grumpy and it takes half an hour to get to you?
Yeah.
Because, you know, like, we just can't separate how we do what we do from what we do.
No, exactly.
And right now, you and I both in our businesses, and every business owner and high-level leader out there, are building a culture, which isn't smiling faces and beers at the pub. It's how you do what you do.
Yep.
It's, are you consistent? How do you communicate? You know, it's how clear you are. Do people understand their goals and their roles?
Yep.
You know, it's kind of like this, bro. It's the way I always like to think about it is, we have to see ourselves as like sporting coaches. You know, a tennis coach sitting up in the stands, having trained and developed the person on the tennis court. Or, you know, rugby league football coach whose sole purpose is to get the team up for game day, and give them a game plan and make sure they can execute, make sure they're fit enough.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only way that, getting back to your point, you know, with success being in the hands of others, how are you going to guarantee the success of your organisation if all we do is work in it? Just put our head down, just push them through workload.
You just can't.
Who's going to train and develop the people that are actually responsible for the outcomes?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You can't do it.
You can't do it.
You can't do it. And like in the short term, as I said earlier, like for my situation at the moment, it's not too bad because the company's only new. It's starting. I've got to do most things. But as anything grows, you just can't do it. And I like like I've heard you say it a billion times, the sporting analogy of the coach. But mate, it is a good analogy because it shows exactly what it is. The coach can't run out in the field. No. The coach can't make the tackles and so on and do the pass and do the goal kick and all that type of stuff.
Even though he'd want it, bro. Wouldn't he?
100%.
Like, Wayne Bennett probably wouldn't want it, but I can rest assured, old mate from Manly, what's his name?
Yeah, Foran.
Yeah, he only retired last year.
Yeah,
he would be absolutely busting to get out there.
He'd be trying to bring back the captain coach.
But he would know, well, here's the thing, if he did it, he'd get the sack.
Yeah.
Because he knows it's not his core purpose.
That's right. And another good thing about that analogy, what I just thought of it then, is it's exactly like business because the coach's head's on the block.
Yes,
like you see at the moment, like coach after coach, as soon as the team starts going bad, like the Foz ball was the greatest thing in the world 3 months ago.
Yes.
Now he's probably going to be close to getting on the chopping block because they're losing, you know what I mean? So as a company owner, as a director or owner, whatever it is, eventually your head's on the chopping block for what everyone else is doing. Yeah. And it's exactly the same as a coach's role.
Exactly, mate. And you know what? That's a really good example because I reckon this about Foran. I reckon he'd be a really good coach. That's what I reckon.
Oh, great, yeah.
But he's only new. He's like that new business owner that was a really good player. He's got a really good footy mind. I think he'll be a really good coach. But has he got a system and process yet?
And that could be it.
Yeah. And let's assume not. But that's okay too because you'll get one and you'll soon get one. But here's the thing: imagine a Foran where he just winged it every week, where he just got in the scrum with the boys, just took the hit ups with them. Like they'd never improve.
No, that's exactly right.
And that's what we just can't afford to do in our businesses. Yeah. For all the guys who are listening out there, it's not that we're not good at what we do, mate. And we say things like this, Matty. We say, you can't find good help. The generation these days just don't want to work. Yep. If you want something done right, you got to just do it yourself. All these things that we say for your customers these days, fair income, I wish they'd stop watching the block, all that stuff that we say. But if they are realities, I would say that. But if that's the truth and if that's as good as it gets, we're buggered.
Yep.
Don't worry about trying to solve the problem you're trying to solve with Thryv.
Well, that's it. And I think nowadays it's definitely mentalities have changed with work. Yeah. Like I noticed it a lot when I going through the trade for the 20 odd years that, it was harder to get not all, but harder to get certain kids to work. It's harder to do this and that. But mate, I think that is true in one respect, but it's also, I don't think it's entirely true. I just think you need to modify your system more. Yeah. You need to give them more clarity or you need to, you need to make you need to make their role suit them and be specific with it, rather than just expecting them just to work and not with any direction or anything like that. Like, it's off you go, mate, pat on the back, there you go. Like, I think once you've got a system in and you can detail it and show them how to do things and show them what their role is and how to do it, I think you can solve a lot of that problem, that laziness. And giving guys ownership, I reckon that's a massive thing.
Explain that to us. What do you mean?
Just given, like I said before, like, we take pride in our finished product. I think giving that to a young guy and saying, mate, take a bit of ownership of this.
And this is the standard.
This is the standard, and this is something you want to hold pride in.
Yep.
So then, even if it's something small, mate, even if it's, like, example, just my old trade, like hanging an indoor unit, you show them how to do it and the right way to do it, and show them what it needs to be, and then they can take pride to say that they've done that correctly. Yeah. And they've got a tick list to say, I did that right.
Yeah,
and then,
so that's the process.
Yeah, and just to hold some pride in it, not have that, she'll be right, mate, or you won't see it from my house type of thing, or whatever.
Or even just doing it for them.
Yeah, doing it for them is the worst thing. I used to do that a lot. I'll be honest with you. I used to do that a lot. I'd be like, get out of the way, let me do it.
Yeah.
And that's probably, once again, that's probably a bad trait that I have, but I'm trying to change now.
Yeah.
By implementing strategies and so on. But that's a big thing. People never learn if you do it for them.
Nah, that's right. You don't develop a team.
No, exactly.
Yeah, it's good, mate. Yeah, well, that's it. And that's the thing with what we talked about before, those couple of examples. You're right. It's not like it's not true. It's what do we do about it? Mm-hmm. Like that. What they say, Matty, is that there's three things, the three top things that keep people in their job. So morale, culture building, being part of a team, not reducing staff turnover, having people who want to buy in and stick around. Money's only in the top 5. The top 3 are they feel safe where they work. Mm-hmm. So
job security.
In other words, yeah, a bit of job security, but even beyond that, it's like my team's got my back. I'm part of a team that cares about me. Mm-hmm. No one's talking about me. No one's bitching about me. No one's throwing me under the bus. Like I feel no one's stabbing me in the back. I feel like I'm part of, and you remember what it's like playing footy.
Oh yeah.
Like when you belong part of a team, it's like family nearly.
Yep.
Right. And then you've got progression, so that it's not a dead end job. Kind of like you said, like there's ownership here, and it's, even though you might not be able to give people promotion after promotion, but that I feel like I'm going somewhere with this.
Yeah.
That we as a company are going somewhere. That this is actually worth something and means something. Like you and what you're doing, for instance, mission. It's why mission's so important, because a mission says to a company, this is why we exist. It's not what we do. Mm-hmm. If all we are is what we do, what separates us from every other bugger?
Exactly right.
But when you've got a really strong mission, it tells your team, no, this is why we exist. Mm-hmm. Then the third one is that they're making a contribution. Yep. That they actually feel like they're helping move the company forward with what they bring to the table. Those 3 things, world studies have shown, those 3 things are the 3 things that keep people in a work environment.
Yeah, it's interesting because you would think it'd be most of the time be money, wouldn't it? But it's only it's a small part of it, the money side of things. But that's it completely makes sense though. Because if you're in a job and you're not appreciated, you feel like you're in a dead end, you're going as far as you can go, and you've got any type of desire to push forward, you're going to have to leave, aren't you? You've got no choice. Yeah,
well, that's right, mate. And, that's the thing with leadership, eh? Like, leadership essentially is influence, being able to influence people and outcomes towards desired results, right?
Yeah.
And influence is a commodity. So, this is a really good thought for leaders, but also team members. People only will follow for as long as they want to. That's why it's a commodity. That's why it's influence. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, they'll just leave. And people only work with people that they want to. At the end of the day, they'll just leave the team.
Yep,
and definitely. So the idea is we're building a culture where people want to hang around because we're influence outcomes together. People feel safe. People feel they're contributing, And so getting back to that thought about the generation these days, I think it's true. I think the way that what motivates people's change now.
Definitely.
But it's on the leader to find out what motivates them.
Yeah, it is. And that's exactly it. It's
And we're not talking it all one way just quickly, are we?
Yeah.
We're not talking about, like placating their every women need. We're talking about leaders trying to understand. A really good example of that would be Wayne Bennett. They reckon he's known as one of the greatest man managers in Australian sport, and it's because he knows his players.
Yeah. He gets to know them on a personal level and modifies the suit.
That's right.
Because some people, I know from, experience through playing footy and work and so on, some people like to be told bluntly.
Yeah.
And some people like a bit of a workaround, and some
That's
people
right.
can't handle confrontation. Some people can. Some people you want you to yell at them and go, mate, just hurry up, and they get going.
Yeah.
Others curl into a ball and it just breaks their confidence.
Yeah.
I know. I think that was the thing with me. Like if someone yelled at me, it didn't help me at all, mate.
Yeah.
Like it just, you know what I mean? It just yelled at you and called you useless and threw tools at you and stuff like that. Because that was the reality when I was an apprentice.
Same.
Blokes would just say, mate, you're useless. What are you doing? You're this and that.
Yeah.
And
That's horrible.
throwing duct tape at you and like blowing up. You know what I mean? And we've all got that in us, I suppose. But it's one of those things that it doesn't help. It doesn't help at all. Like just screaming at people and doing that, it just makes most people it makes them worse. And then they feel like they don't belong. They feel unsafe. They feel like they're backed into a corner.
Yeah. And why would you hang around?
Exactly
and even variance is that. So there's a real contrast to that. And what we'd say is that, for leaders out there are wondering, well, bloody hell, where's the line? Because I'm really good to my people. Like I'm really generous with them. And I'm training and I'm doing all I can, and they're still not turning up for me. Mm-hmm. And then there's the other extreme, like the guys that aren't training and developing, they're yelling and screaming. I mean, I think that happens less and less because people just won't get away with it these days.
Nowadays you can't.
But here's the middle ground, right? Is that what we say it like this. We go that generosity without responsibility and accountability ends in entitlement. Mm-hmm. We can't be the kind of leaders that are just that generous with our people that they just become entitled and they think that that's just what you're there for.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that goes back to the influence thing and respect.
Yeah.
Like if your employees, if you don't hold that influence, if you don't hold a good, you don't hold yourself in a good esteem, so you've got influence over them, then they won't respect you. And so no matter what you do, whether you're yelling and screaming or you're laying down the goal path in front of them, they're not going to appreciate it either way.
Yeah, that's good.
That's one of the things I see with it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah,
so if they don't respect you, they're not going to want to do it either way.
Yeah, it's a good thought. Because what we're kind of talking about is getting back to what is leadership, isn't it? And when you take on a business, you go from being a worker to a leader.
Yep.
And that's a whole different skill set. It's a whole different mindset. And, you've got to be able to ask the question, how am I going to be able to influence outcomes through this person? Well, we've talked about it. You've got to know them.
Exactly, yeah.
You got to know what makes them tick. You got to understand them. And they need to know you, and they need to know what's expected. And then you need to be able to, we sort of have what we call a position profile where you just, it's like this. It's like nobody has to wonder. You look at Craig Bellamy, for instance, we use footy analogies, sorry if we bore everyone. But, Craig Bellamy has this knack, doesn't he, of taking players that were not performing and maybe had never performed.
From the Knights, generally.
Exactly.
He's taken about 40 off us over the last few years and turned them into rep players and full
superheroes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And we sort of go, how does he do that? Well, maybe we don't completely understand how he does it, but he does it. And he's done it that many times.
Consistently.
So what is he saying? Is he making it easy for him? No, well, we know he's a super hard trainer. You know what he probably is doing? He's doing what leaders do. They set the expectation really clearly. This is what our company stands for. This is our mission. This is our vision. These are our core values.
Yep.
This is the job description. This is where I want you to go. And having heard of players that have played for Bellamy, he's very precise around what they bring to a game.
Yep,
you are to run in this zone.
Yep.
These are how many tackles we need from you, like the KPIs. This is when you get the ball. This is what you do with the ball. This is, these are what we want you to do. I don't know the complete ins and outs, but he's very precise around what success looks like.
Yeah, definitely does. Yeah, like to the point where he'd actually have some guys that he'd say, your part of the field is 10 in from the sideline to the centre.
Yeah.
You do not run outside of that. If someone runs, if you're chasing someone to tackle, they go outside of that, you stop.
Yeah,
to that point where he just, certain players, you just give them, that was their task. You don't let anyone through this 20 or so metres, and that's your position.
So they give him very, very clear goals, which is what you were saying before, mate. It's like, okay, so what we want to do here is we want to get very clear on why we're here, what success looks like, and what success looks like to you. And this is what I need from you.
Yeah.
And then here's what the 4 steps of leadership, we'd say it this way. Set the expectation. We just talked about that. Empower the outcome. So he doesn't give them a game plan and it's like, all right, boys, it's Monday Arvo. I'll catch us on the weekend. Like he's training and developing them through in the week.
Yeah.
Fitness, skills, what we call hand, head, heart, skill set, mindset and character all week. Footy players, mate, they get trained for 40 or 50 hours a week for 1 hour a game day.
Yeah.
And, we in business train our teams, at 0 for 50 hours a week?
Probably, I'd say an average 0 across, if you took into account every company. You just don't do it at all. And, from a trade background, even with that, like they go to TAFE, and then you kind of sort of expect them to learn their trade through that. Yeah. And you train them on site and things like that, obviously. But when it comes to the nitty gritty of getting into the business and how it's ran,
and what success looks like in their mind.
And I think that's as I said before, is the biggest thing for a first year, and people just coming from any part is having, as you said then, what success means to them and showing them how to get to that point. Yeah. And then you don't have to give them a lollipop or anything at the end. Like it's not as if you got to give them a reward, but they should have a reward for themselves saying that was my goal for success.
That's right.
I've achieved that goal.
Yeah.
I know with myself, one of my biggest my problems with transitioning from when I initially transitioned from being a tradie to doing office work, like project management, was finding that satisfaction, because I used to have a goal every day of X amount of work I wanted to get done, and then that would be I'd get dirty if I didn't get it finished. And so, but when I did, it was like a little pat on my own back to say, okay, you accomplished the thing for the day. Yeah, go home, have a beer, relax, whatever. But when I moved into that role, and I'm lucky I did that role before I came to this, otherwise I would have been in all sorts, because this is even more heavy into not getting any physical. I could be doing a DA approval and doing a process for 12 months and not see anything physical. So that was good with that, because I learnt how to get sort of a bit of satisfaction out of the planning side of it rather than just physically doing the labour itself. So it was a good little transition.
It's a good thought, mate, because this is why most business owners get stuck in workload, because it's actually satisfying.
It is, 100%.
It is easier to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But here's getting back to this leadership thought. So we've got setting the expectation, we've got empower the outcome, measure the result. So it's like always measuring where things are up to. Don't find out the hard way that your people aren't where they need to be. System, process, KPIs, and we know, don't we, the footy coaches do that. Like they measure every single thing.
Everything, yep.
And then lastly, we've got hold people accountable. Now, that's the only thing that's guaranteed to happen. Someone's always holding someone accountable, But if we do the other 3 well, accountability is more just like putting your hand up because you've already agreed to the standards.
Yep.
You've already agreed to the outcomes. You've already agreed to what success looks like. And it's not a personal thing. It's a professional thing when it's done well. But again, like when business owners and leaders don't do the other 3 well because they're just working on workload all day, the team's just sort of making it up as they go along.
Yeah, exactly. And then, as you said, like you jump from the first to the last and you hold them accountable with nothing in the middle. Yeah. And you're yelling at them and they're just looking at your blank face.
Yeah.
Like, mate,
I didn't know that. It's not my job.
I didn't know I was meant to do that. Yeah. So you can't really, it's hard to hold someone accountable for something you've never actually given them direction on.
So that's true.
That's why you need to have those middle bits. As much as none of us want to do the work, most of the time, it's the truth. And I think that type of, with that leadership side of things, and it's for me to start learning and get better at, is you don't see you don't see the cost benefit to that middle piece.
You don't.
You don't see it at all until it's either too late, or you go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like 12, 18 months, 2 years, or whatever it is down the track, you see the benefits of what you've put into it. And I mean, it's the same with, with anything in life, I suppose. There's certain things you've just got to do, and you might not see the benefit in it.
That's right, bro.
Until 6 or 12 months down the track. But it's just realising that you need to put that time into leadership, into the parts that matter, into the training, into the, whatever, I can't remember the exact terminology you use, but into those parts of it to then get the desired outcome at the end as a leader.
Yeah, mate.
And be respected at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's right. And have created a team that wants to win, knows what winning looks like,
Yeah.
take the hits and celebrate the victories. Like
definitely.
you said, hey, mate, you just want to, that's what everyone wants. They want a unified, aligned team who are achieving the desired results of the organisation.
Yeah.
That's why we do it, isn't it?
And scalable across any type of business too.
That's it.
Because
You want to
if
be
it's-
able to scale it.
If you've only got, you might start off with 1 or 2 staff, you have it implemented then, and then you might end up with 50 or 100. It doesn't even matter how big the company gets, as long as you've got those systems in there and you've got that set from the start, and then you can grow without having to worry about pulling your hair out. And
So, mate, here's what I know. Thryv Property Co. is going to be an absolute powerhouse. It's going to solve the problems that it sets out to solve, which is a massive housing shortage, which is not going away anytime soon.
only getting worse, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And, mate, what I love about where you're up to with this is you're not just putting all the chips in the middle of the table and having a crack because you think you can. You know you can, but you're building a foundation to be able to carry the weight of success. You're going to solve a lot of problems, bro. You're going to help a lot of people. But I love the fact that you're doing it in a disciplined way. You're sort of going, all right, well, then what are my goals? What are we building on? Where do we want to go? What kind of foundation do I need? I'm going to spend the time to lay the foundation because, you've got a big goal ahead of you, and mate, I just know it's going to be a real success.
Yeah.
It's been awesome working with you, my bro.
It's good to do it, mate.
Yeah,
We've got a
it's
couple
been
more
really
to go
good.
between us, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're real excited, aren't we, about
Yeah,
the way
oh,
things are panning out.
Mate, definitely, 100%. Just keep on trucking forward. Keep on getting all the foundations set so we can achieve great things.
Yeah, that's
Solve
it.
a lot of problems.
Yeah, and it certainly is one of those things that's worthy of our time and energy to solve this one. So
Definitely is.
you're a legend, my bro. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
See ya.